FM and AM 1230 WBVP. Also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Beaver County Radio's news source. Are you ready? It's time to find out what is on the mind of Eddie Crow. It's something to crow about on Beaver County Radio, 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP. Now, here's the host of the show, Eddie Crow.
You got a question for your pharmacist? Like, what's the best medication to deal with a room full of kids? That was last hour, and it was brilliant. Brandon Antinopoulos joins me now from Forward RX. And once a month we do this, and you got questions for your pharmacist. I got questions for you. Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
If I click this button, people will be able to see you on our Facebook page. If you've got questions and you don't want to call, post them in the comments section on the Facebook feed. And questions for you.
Yes.
I thought about you the other day. I realized I called to make a doctor's appointment. And I'm looking, I go, oh, I think I got a brand new one of them deductible things. This is going to cost me more.
Yeah.
And 'tis the season.
'Tis the season, indeed, yes.
What does that do to a pharmacy?
Yeah.
Same thing?
Sure.
Okay.
So we'll kind of go through what the typical pharmacy experience would be like, both for the pharmacy and the patient, and then kind of what ours is like at Forward RX. So, yeah, this is usually the time of the year, especially if you have a Medicare plan. Mm-hmm. Even if you stuck with the same insurance plan as you had the previous year, usually there are some changes year over year. So
the price went up.
Yes, and that's usually due to something that's called a deductible resetting. So it happens in medical benefit as well as pharmacy benefit on your health plan. So after the first of the year, you have a deductible. Could be a few $100s, could be a few $1,000s. But generally, once you spend your way paying the full price out of pocket for the services or medications after you hit that deductible.
What would make it a few $1,000s? Because I think mine's $1,000.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So the ones that are usually considered high deductible health plans, these are ones that you would get potentially as an option through work, through your employer. Or with the state marketplace or exchange, as we have in Pennsylvania, it's called Penny, where you can...
Those are the people that text me all the time.
They text me too. They text me too. Yeah. Because this year I qualify for some government subsidy for some of the premiums, so they definitely want me to pick the highest premium plan.
Absolutely. You need a platinum package.
Exactly. So, but yeah, those could be ones. And even for me and my family, family of four, and this is one of the cheapest plans that we pick. It's a high deductible plan. I think we dish out $980 some a month in premiums, and our deductibles like $6,000 with an out of pocket or a maximum out of pocket spend of like somewhere over $10,000. But what I found is, and this is one of the reasons why I opened Forward RX. And again, we're a cost plus pharmacy, which just really means we're just like your typical pharmacy, community pharmacy. We just have a simple markup on all the prescriptions we dispense. All of our prices are transparent. Anyone can go on our website, fwdrx.com, go to our price checker and see what the actual prices of the medications are. And regardless of you have insurance or not, everyone pays the same thing. We don't have any insurance contracts. And because we do it that way, that's why we're able to transparently post our prices. But what I was finding is people with those deductibles, so you pay the full out-of-pocket price. So there's a difference in our world between cost. And when I say cost, that's like what the actual drug costs for me to get it from my wholesaler, put it on my shelf, and that's what our prices are based off of. But the rest of the pharmacy industry has price, which is a ridiculously inflated kind of market price, if you will. The prices of generic drugs are nowhere near what the actual costs are. So you're paying 100% of what the market has determined is the price of that medication, not the cost.
And now how do they determine that? Is math involved, or is that just an arbitrary profit thing?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know the details, but from what I've seen, it's just an arbitrary price. So there's a lot of different price benchmarks. There's average wholesale price, which is AWP. There's something called MAC, WAC, NADA. Like there's all these different ways to like reference pricing points. But now when it comes to brand name medications, the cost of those medications are closely aligned with what the industry prices. Like they may be set really high, but there's very little markup in what a pharmacy pays for the cost of a brand name drug to where the industry prices. But when it comes to generic medications, it's all over the board. And that's why for us and
explain your business model.
Yeah,
because
sure.
Everything you just talked about makes me think I am so glad you're doing what you're what you're doing. It's
spilling the tea. That's it on an industry where there's very little transparency, and so that's what we're here to do is bring some transparency to it.
Yes.
So our model is whatever the actual cost of your medication is. So
what you pay to get it in the shop.
What I pay my wholesaler in Altoona to get it delivered to us to have it in the shop. We do a simple, transparent markup on everything we dispense. So it's everything is the cost of the medication plus a 5% markup of what that cost is, plus $10 to cover our labor. That's how we get to the final price that you pay or you see.
Why aren't you just charging whatever you want to charge and ripping people off when you can do it like everybody seemingly else?
That's a great question. I think this is something, when you look at most providers in healthcare, and I believe this of pharmacists, I believe this of doctors, nurses, the people that are actually providing the care. We all want to do what's in the best interest of the patient. We still need to be able to pay our student loans and pay our bills. Yeah. And so we can continue to do that. But, we all took some respective oath of our professions to put people and patients over profits. And I've just seen where the industry, the healthcare industry, as advanced as we are in the United States, it just doesn't seem to always put patients first. So, unfortunately, things are so bad that there is now a business opportunity where transparency and doing the right thing by not participating in the status quo U.S. healthcare system like we do.
How do you do that? What does that change for you?
How so? What do you mean?
By not participating in the status quo, because I don't know, parts of this sounds like a mob. If you're doing something cheaper, somebody that's not doing it cheaper is going to come down and say, hey, why are you doing it cheaper?
Yeah. So how we're doing it, I think, is really just, again, things are so bad. Nobody knows what the real cost of anything is within healthcare.
It's incredibly confusing.
Yep. Nobody pays the same price. I mentioned with the high deductible health plans, what I found is that whenever I was paying full price using my insurance, anytime I told a provider or a pharmacist, like, hey, I don't have insurance, what's the cash price? The cash price was always cheaper than, like, the cash out-of-pocket price without insurance was always cheaper than what my price would be using my insurance.
Okay, that's insane.
Yes. Like, why do we pay all that money in premiums, to go to use it to only pay more money? And so, and taking a look around, like Mark Cuban, he started an online version of kind of what we're doing. There's another pharmacy, one of the first that really the first in this modern area that I know of in 2020, Blueberry Pharmacy in Westview. They started this model where, again, it's just, all of us is just saying, hey, you know what? We can 90% of the medications that are dispensed are generic medications. Yeah, like, yes, our prices aren't the cheapest when it comes to brand name medications. We can still try to help you figure out how to afford brand names, even if it's not us filling it. But when it comes to the other 90% of the medications, and where 79% of the time for someone with a deductible, it's actually cheaper just to pay our cash price than it would be to use your insurance.
Explain the commercial where the lady walks up and she can't get the medicine for the baby, but then they go on an app and it's suddenly all good.
Yes.
What Brandon, explain that again, adding to the confusion.
Yes. Yeah. So GoodRx, and GoodRx isn't the only kind of like coupon, discount savings coupon that's available for patients to use. GoodRx has a very good marketing team. To do what they do. But I think they realized years ago just this divide between what the cost is and what the price is, and reasons why pharmacies, whenever they carry insurance contracts, that the contracts actually prohibit them from charging a reasonable cash price without insurance.
What, the contract you signed to have your stuff sent in sets a cap, sets a ceiling?
Yeah, so the language in the insurance contract says that you cannot charge the insurance company, you cannot bill them a higher price than you would charge somebody a cash price without insurance. And so what that does is that creates this incentive to whatever the insurance company that's paying the highest price for a prescription, that's now your price. Because if you set your price lower than that,
you're in violation of the contract you signed.
Yes, yeah, and so that incentivizes those pharmacies to set their prices based on the highest reimbursement that they're receiving, and they cannot, even if they know there's like $100 spread between the costs, or even we're seeing examples of cancer in MS medications where there's thousands of dollars of spread. Like Medicare is paying $6,000 to fill a prescription that I would sell at a regular price for $36, just because there's that much spread in it. And
so under $40 versus over $5,000.
Yeah. And so what GoodRx did was say, like, you know what, pharmacies, we're gonna step in so that you don't have to change your prices, but we can deliver a reasonable price to those patients without violating your contract terms. But what slowly started to happen is that as GoodRx grew, they actually charged the pharmacy, it could be $10, $15, that ultimately the patient ends up paying whenever they use that coupon. But, as you're the patient, the only thing you see is like, hey, I'm paying a cheaper price than I would have, so, I'm getting savings. And then a couple years ago, GoodRx actually got into some hot water where they found that they were, all the patient data that was coming through on those claims, they were selling it to Facebook and Google without
a little side gig action with the information.
Yeah. So that's how another part of their business model is the data, which is why for us we made the decision at ForwardRx, even at times where a GoodRx price might be cheaper than our price, we don't participate in or submit claims to GoodRx or any of the discount coupons, just because we feel if anyone's going to make money on your data, it should be you.
Yeah.
That's more of a philosophical thing, I guess, for us. But that's why we have patients that call and ask. They'll say like, "Hey, do you accept discount coupons?" And we'll tell them, "No, we don't. But if we're aware of another method for you to more affordably access your medication, that the savings is reasonable, we'll help you find it or send your prescription somewhere else to do so."
Brandon Antinopoulos of ForwardRx is my guest. It's 3rd Street, 800 block of 3rd Street in New Brighton. We were talking off the air. Did somebody else start doing what you're doing? That gives me hope, because usually when somebody does something decent, they're beaten down.
Yeah.
Are more people looking at this and adopting your business model.
Yeah, so certainly the number of independent pharmacies like ours is growing.
Why is it growing when the chain pharmacies are going belly up, seemingly?
Yeah, so it's the chain pharmacies going belly up has to do with insurance reimbursement. And again, this is kind of like everything you hear in healthcare. I mean, you've seen this in the physician provider side too, as far as insurance reimbursements going down. So why, and that's also part of a reason why on some medications pharmacies charge the highest price possible, because they have to make up losses from other insurance reimbursements that they're seeing. So and this is something that affects chains. It affects independents. I think we've lost, what was the total number? I saw something nationally like 2,300 pharmacies in the first 10 months of last year, and many of them chain pharmacies also. So the whole issue of like prescription reimbursement is certainly not unique just to independent pharmacy. So this is another reason why for us and other pharmacies have decided that, you know what, we believe that if we just show everyone a transparent, affordable price, I believe at the end of the day, people just want to be cared for and not get ripped off. And, you know, that's what we're doing. And it actually is financially more beneficial for us, more sustainable for us to not contract with an insurance company, because at least that way we have a little bit more predictability in our, you know, in our business model. And so I think more independent pharmacies are doing this, but there was actually an announcement this past week that CVS Pharmacy, all of their like employer insurance contracts that they have, they're now gonna base all their reimbursements on not Medicare and Medicaid, but at least their commercial contracts, which are those employer ones and those marketplaces ones. Those pharmacies are now going to be paid in a similar model to what our pricing model is. So, you know, it's what do they say? Like imitation is the best form of flattery. I guess we're on to something, but I do think this will grow. They're still not posting their prices yet. They missed the whole transparency piece of that. That's still pretty quiet. They're not releasing, you know, contracts for what their prices are going to be or anything like that the rest of us are doing. But hey, I guess baby steps.
How demented is it that your business plan of transparency and human decency and not ripping people off now appears novel?
That's a great point. And again,
oh my God, you guys, they're an actual business, not ripping people off.
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah, and again in healthcare, like if there's if there's anything that again, if something's expensive, it's expensive, but at least if people are informed with, here's the cost of something or here's the price. And they know they're not getting ripped off, they can decide for themselves, is it worth it or not? Or if, insurance was always, the concept of insurance was always protect against financial harm or financial ruin from a high cost, unpredictable event. Regardless if it's health insurance, regardless if it's home, fire insurance, all this stuff.
A big oh no.
Yeah, you pay money because I don't have enough in savings to cover what the actual cost of replacing whatever, the cost of therapy. So if we got to a point where in healthcare, insurance was used purely for that, and then routine care and expensive care was paid for out of pocket, and we got insurance companies out of that whole transaction or equation, because anytime someone's got their hand in the transaction, anyone's got to make their money, and there's about 6 or 7 different middlemen between the wholesaler and the pharmacy whenever you get your medication in that model. So we just cut all that out and pass along all that savings transparently to the patient whenever we can. So yeah, it's sad whenever like you said, that's the novel thing, is like there's a just being transparent and just being honest is now seen as an innovative business idea. But hey, that's what we're here to do, and it's catching on, and so we're just glad that we can help some people save some money, still access their medications affordably, and be able to take care of my family while we're doing it and do what I love.
Make a living and helping people. Brandon Antinopoulos is my guest. Forward RX is 809 3rd Avenue in New Brighton. 724-246-6257. After news, I want to talk about pills.
If you own a company or a small business, you might have considered advertising on radio. It's smart because radio is still the most far-reaching media outlet today. WBVP and WMBA can get you results. Get more information at beavercountyradio.com.
Let's rock the new year at AK Nahas and save up to 20% off Flex Steel furniture. Flex Steel's customizable designs and unmatched quality will brighten your home in the new year, and the $100 you save will make it even better. Get up to 20% off the lowest price on over 60 Flex Steel collections in our showroom, along with 12 months special financing and free local delivery. Your style, your way. Save big this winter at AK Nahas Appliance Furniture, Mattress, and TV. You'll do okay with AK.
The place for news, sports, and entertainment. You're listening to Beaver County Radio, 99.3 FM and WBVP, live from the all-new Fry Transportation Studios.
Beaver County Radio's news source. 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and beavercountyradio.com. Here's Noah Haswell.
Good morning on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP. On this Tuesday, January 14th of 2025, it'll be a high near 19 today. We will have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after we take this look at news. A shooting that occurred in North Swickley Township on Sunday evening left a family of 4 dead. Bill and Michelle Hunt, along with their 2 sons, were the victims of a shooting that occurred at Schaefer Road at about 8:30 p.m. The 19-year-old son shot the other 3 and then died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. All 4 have died as a result of gunshot wounds. An Aliquippa man was jailed after hitting and choking a 1-year-old female juvenile on Monday. Police went to the Eleanor Roosevelt Apartments on 740 Sheffield Avenue at 10:18 a.m., where 60-year-old Daryl Watkins of Aliquippa assaulted the child. The guardian of the child called the police. Watkins tried to fight officers at the police station after refusing their orders. Watkins is in the Beaver County Jail and faces 7 charges, including simple assault. PennDOT announced on Monday that all of their centers will be closed from Saturday, January 18th to Monday, January 20th because of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This includes the PennDOT Center in Harrisburg that is full service. You can visit PennDOT's Driver and Vehicle Services website anytime for more information, and the link to that website can be viewed on our website at beavercountyradio.com. An environmental group is voicing concerns about the current nominee to lead the Federal Office of Management and Budget. Danielle Smith has more.
President-elect Donald Trump has tapped Russ Vought, a co-author of Project 2025, to head this office, although Trump has long claimed he has no knowledge of the conservative playbook. David Kiva with EDF Action says in the previous Trump administration, Vought delayed resources and funding relief to states during weather disasters. Kiva is convinced Vought's confirmation would jeopardize Pennsylvanians' economic well-being.
Pennsylvania farmers, small business owners, and citizens continue to deal with severe weather impacts and rising electric bills. They need our elected leaders in Washington to step up. Russ Vought is intentionally checked out when Pennsylvanians and the rest of Americans have needed help the most.
Vought's confirmation hearing is set for January 15th. Kiva notes that Vought has expressed a desire to traumatize career civic servants at the EPA and cut the agency's funding to limit energy industry regulation.
Wegmans announced on Monday that a new store will be located in Cranberry on Cool Spring Drive, close to the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex. According to Wegmans, the new store will sell food, a big wine and beer selection, bakery goods, deli products, and produce. Wegmans also confirmed that about 400 to 500 employees will work in the 115,000 square foot store. The opening and construction dates for the new store have not yet been confirmed. Planning closures were announced by the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium on Monday. According to zoo officials, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from January 14th through February 26th, the zoo grounds will close. However, Thursdays through Mondays will be normal operation days. These closures are because of construction to improve the facility. Zoo officials from the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium stated that both a new trail and front entrance are planned for projects.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
The stretch of very cold weather and below zero wind chills will continue through much of the week. Today we'll see increasing clouds with a chance of snow showers beginning in the afternoon. Look for highs near 19. Cloudy tonight with a chance of snow showers through the early evening. Will drop down to a low around 11. Mostly cloudy tomorrow with a slight chance of snow through early afternoon. We'll reach a high of 22 and an overnight low around 8. And breezy with a chance of snow showers on Thursday. Look for a high near 28 and a low around 23. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
That's a look at the news for now. I am Noah Haswell on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Are you ready? It's time to find out what is on the mind of Eddie Crow. It's something to crow about on Beaver County Radio, 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP. Now, here's the host of the show, Eddie Crow.
Today has absolutely flown. The first hour, I was with the cast of the SpongeBob musical from Dutch Ridge Elementary, and it was nice beyond words. This hour is a visit from Brandon. Brandon Antinopoulos is the pharmacist and runs Forward RX Cost Plus, which, just for the simplicity of it alone, you can call the shop, Forward RX, 724-246-6257. It's 809 3rd Avenue in New Brighton, and it's also being fed live on our Facebook feed. If you've got questions about pills or anything else, I love talking to Brandon because it clarifies how simple this system could be and how jacked up the system currently is. Is that a nice way to say it?
That's exactly how to say it.
We're making this way too hard, and the long and short of it is we got too many middlemen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand.
Way too confusing, more complicated than it has to be. I forget who said it, but where there's mystery, there's profit margin.
That's
and
right.
So it's that way by design.
Confusion means money.
That's it. So we made the decision to not be confusing. And even if we're not the cheapest price, we think people, again, just want to be cared for and don't want to be taken advantage of. So that's what we're doing.
But if you're not the cheapest price from time to time, going to Forward RX is still avoiding the roller coaster of wonder how much this is going to be today.
Exactly.
The consistency of it.
Yep.
I want to ask you, what's the difference between generic and name brand in terms of efficacy?
Yes. Yep.
And marketing?
Yeah, sure.
All
So,
right.
so that's a great question.
Give me an example. What do you at Forward RX have people request name brand specific?
Yeah. So there are, I'm trying to think. So an example of something where we get requests, if there's a generic available that's name brand, is thyroid medication, which is Synthroid, is the name brand of that. Levothyroxine is the generic, and it's been around for a long time. That's generally one where there's so much potency in a small dose of it that the smallest change.
You're talking about in the chemical makeup of the medicine.
Yeah, so I always explain it this way. It's kind of like, everyone makes chocolate chip cookies, and everyone can use the same ingredients to make the chocolate chip cookies. But someone may buy their ingredients from a different place. Someone's recipe may be a little bit different, even if they're using the same ingredients. So you don't always get the same cookies, but sometimes it's close enough to...
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still a cookie.
Yeah. And in some medications and disease states that they're used to treat, that pretty close or close enough doesn't make a difference. But there are some things in which that pretty close or close enough you can see a difference. And it's not necessarily a safety issue, but say you were taking, in the case of Synthroid, like 100 microgram dose of the brand. Well, you may switch to the generic levothyroxine, and you may need 112 micrograms to get the same effect or the same level. We even see that and again, just kind of talking about this particular medication, where a change from one manufacturer to the other that are both generics, you may see some differences. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And other pharmacies, you're pretty much just trying to buy whatever the cheapest one is that you can get from your wholesaler, because you don't get to set your prices, you don't get to set your reimbursements, so you're just trying to find the cheapest one. For us, if someone comes to us and say, hey, I want this very specific manufacturer, the specific brand, we can at least say, hey, no problem, I can get it. Here's what our cost is. So because this is our cost, here's the price. Is that price okay or not? And then, people can decide from there. So the brand name medications, they have, they invest a lot of money into the research and development of those brand name medications. For every one drug that they find that comes to market, there's probably 20 that they invested in and failed and are never going to...
The test came back and the trials weren't positive enough to continue?
Exactly. So, one of the justifications, we can argue if it's enough justification or not for some of the high prices, but one of the justifications for why brand name medications are a lot higher price is because they're the ones that put forth all the money to come out to the drug, but they're not just profiting for that specific drug. They're covering all the money that they spend and lost by other drugs that never came to market. The one out of 20 that they can make money on is covering for the 19 that didn't work out. Right. Now, but the companies, there's also research that happens that's grant funded at universities for things too. So it's not like, manufacturers are putting all of their own money into this. But there is a good portion that they're looking at to come up with it. So because of that, they're rewarded with, at least a decade's worth of patent exclusivity, that they're the only ones that get to make that medication, market that medication, and then after the patent expires, other generic manufacturers, they can submit to the FDA to be able to bring their generic version of that medication to market. And part of that process is they do have to submit data and prove to the FDA that it's just as effective and as safe as the brand name product.
How often does it get reverse engineered immediately when the name brand product hits the world? For the generic makers to have it ready when they can officially have it. Yeah, so sometimes I've seen at times where it can be like 2 years. I've seen times where, just recently, not approved for weight loss, but in the same category as the many popular weight loss medications like Wegovy and Zepbound, the GLP-1s. One of the first GLP-1 injectable medications that came on the market years ago is called Victoza, originally used for diabetes. It's still used for diabetes. It just had a generic get approved. And so I think the generic got approved a couple months ago. And I just got an email from one of my wholesalers today that said that they now have it available to be able to send and submit. So, but there's also times where those more and more the brand name drug manufacturers, there's a lot of money at stake. So when something goes off patent, they better have a new medication in the pipeline that's gonna quickly. Yeah, and if they don't, they'll do some, what I consider as goofy things. I think for them it's just standard business practice to try to protect that patent
as long as possible and make it harder for generic manufacturers to bring a generic drug product even through the appropriate approval process to market so that they can extend that further. So an example of this would be Xarelto. So Xarelto's one of the top, blood thinning medications that's prescribed. Pretty much took the place of warfarin. Or Coumadin, years ago. That was a medication that would thin your blood, had to do a lot of testing to make sure that your levels weren't too high or it wasn't too low. And then
so thin, but not too thin.
Yeah, well then Xarelto came out, which it was just as effective, but much safer and not, in the case that it didn't require so much testing to make sure you needed an adequate level. So that's one where the original patent on it expired, I don't know, like 2019. And there's been court battles to make sure that, they could extend their patent for as long as possible, where we're expecting finally this year there's going to be a generic of Xarelto, which is going to save a lot of money for a healthcare system and a lot of folks, but doesn't obviously save money or means it's going to be lost revenue for the makers of Xarelto.
Right. So what's the plan? They just clog the courts and keep it at that rate as long as they can?
Yes. Yeah. So
lawyers are cheaper than profit loss?
Yeah. So there's some things that they can do. And again, it's like the term, at least I've come to call it, as like regulatory capture. It's almost like there's regulations, but companies use the regulations in order to protect their. And so one of the things that they could do is say, 10 years down the road, they discover like, oh, we have new evidence that shows that, this medication is also good in this population or is used to treat
we
this
can
disease.
Sell it to this demographic.
Yeah. And so every time that new evidence gets submitted to the FDA, that just means that's another thing that the generic manufacturers have to kind of answer for and show. And so before you know it, you have a brand name drug manufacturer that submitted 90 of these like new evidence to the FDA that just extends the process that the generic manufacturers have to decide that they want to go through to bring their version of it to market.
It's an episode of Andy Griffith when they buy the miracle salve and then try and pass it off as it cures the mange.
I'd have to watch that one.
I promise you what you just described is an Andy Griffith.
I believe you.
The kids get the miracle salve. Nobody wants it, so they try and trick the distributors, the money.
Oh, yeah.
How well it cures the mange. I'm going to look it up during this break. Brandon Antinopoulos is my guest. Forward RX in New Brighton. It's exactly what you just described.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I watch it. We're gonna watch it here after we're done. What's the mange?
The mange?
Yeah, what's the mange?
You don't know what the mange is?
I don't.
When a dog has the dog's fur gets the mange.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that's the trick. They're going to trick the distributors that pressure the kids into selling the stuff they want it back so they can sell it to all the vets because it cures the mange on dogs.
Then this is exactly it. Exactly as you described.
I'm going to ask you a really difficult question. Please dumb down the answer.
Okay.
Why does stuff cost $20 in one country and cost $1,000 here? Is there a simple answer, or is it just a labyrinth of what you've been talking about?
A couple things. One, I guess it would be very simple answers, but answers again that you think like, why is it so screwed up? We have insurance companies and use of taxpayer dollars that are willing to cover and pay for drugs when they are priced at $1,000. And so because of that, if you're making something and say, hey, I got someone who's willing to pay me $1,000, then
you're taking it.
Yeah. And in other countries, what I've seen is that I guess you could say that there's probably more oversight for the government to negotiate what those prices are. Like you may have universal health care. Again, you just may have more authority of the government to step in and negotiate prices to where they can say like, hey, you're not allowed to sell your medication in our country or approve it unless this is the highest price.
This is the number.
Yeah. And so, whether the drug manufacturers are losing money selling their product in those countries, and we as Americans are
have to make up the difference.
Yeah, making up. Or I would think that they're still making a profit selling in those other countries, but then they're making even a greater profit than what they do in the U.S. So, whether I don't know if universal health care is the answer. It's kind of like you have to have it one way or another. You either have to have someone who's just saying, here's the price that everyone's going to pay and that's it, or you have to have complete transparency in the actual people taking the medications, deciding where they're going to spend the money, and not necessarily a third party making those decisions of who gets the money and at what price and all that. The
novel notion of a transparent pricing, it being novel, how did we get here?
Oh, gosh.
Because you're not looking at it like me seeing all of these ads late at night. You're looking at it like a medical professional. How did the system, when we're talking about pharmaceuticals, how did it get so insanely... it just seems like a bucket of hammers for no reason at all.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, one reason. Is that how it got here? Money?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of how to...
Be polite about it?
Well, I mean, just be objective.
Okay.
And unbiased. Because again, I don't know if the medical and advances in treatment that we have currently, those all came out of a incentive to profit financially.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the only thing we didn't see that I can think of is, Jonas Salk
giving it away.
Yeah, exactly. So I think because you have a financial incentive to innovate or do something new, we have the medical advances that we do. But I guess the question comes like, when is the price too high a price?
Now, because people are dying because they can't afford the medicine they need to keep them alive.
Yeah, and I always ask, like, if a drug company made a drug that was priced at $1,000 a month,
mm-hmm.
but there was no person or no third party that was willing, no government with taxpayer dollars willing to pay them $1,000 a month for whatever they came up with, would they price it at $1,000 a month? No, they would probably figure out how to price it at $400, $300, $200, whatever. But
they would price down to what the market would bear.
Exactly. But we don't really have a free market in healthcare. Now, there's some people that argue that healthcare shouldn't be a free market. It's a right, and I think I'm certainly one that everyone should have affordable access to care, regardless of the system, the price, whatever. The people providing the service, should be appropriately compensated and incentivized. But we just have too many people involved in the transaction of healthcare that nobody knows who they are, nobody knows what they do.
Can I use the word leeches?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can use the word leeches, and like that's a problem. I think I saw something where close to of all the money that the government spends on healthcare, close to 50%, so every 50 cents on a dollar, goes to administrative cost and or waste that nobody that's ever going to see a patient, take care of a patient, get like producing the treatment or anything like that. And that's a problem.
Contributing to the solution.
Yes. Yeah. They're there to save someone save an entity and make entities money. And really all it's doing is driving up the price and driving up the cost of care.
You said CVS has adopted the business model that Forward RX has. Does that give you hope?
It at least gives me hope that we're moving in the right direction. I still think, large companies like that, publicly traded companies within healthcare, they're doing what they can to increase shareholder value. Mm-hmm. And I haven't come across, and this isn't a knock on their pharmacists or their staff, but I really haven't come across anyone who says like, oh, I absolutely love going to my CVS or specific chain. And if it is, it's usually because of a very specific technician or pharmacist that's there that in spite of the challenges, they make it a good experience. I don't know, Ryan, I don't know what your last name is, but I know you work at this CVS at Target Monaca. I hear more compliments about you than people that transfer and to us. So, kudos to you. I don't know if you're listening or not.
Doing a good job, Ryan.
But I think the people actually providing the care, again, they're in it to do what's right for the people. But look at me, like I have to run a business that works well for the shareholder,
right?
But my idea of well enough is one that I think puts patients before profits, where with the large healthcare entities, it just seems like they profits first. How do we take care of people in a way that's not going to get us negative press?
Get us sued.
Yeah. Well, anymore they're becoming more okay with sue. I mean, there's the FTC and DOJ has more lawsuits on a lot of these major healthcare entities now than they ever have, and why they still continue to do business with them, I don't know. I'm not a politician, but yeah. So it even seems like now the whole them getting sued is, just par for the course for them at this point. But when independent pharmacies were the first ones to do free delivery, were the first ones to remove cigarettes from their shelves.
Yeah.
Nobody really seems to think of it being that big until a large chain like a CVS does it. So hopefully, if anything now, it just brings more awareness and more validity to the model that, transparency is the way to go in healthcare.
Brandon Antinopoulos, my guest once. Great seeing you. I learned so much when you're here, man.
No, thank you. I learned what mange is. And now
mange,
and
that miracle salve cured that mange. Forward RX is 809 3rd Avenue in New Brighton. The phone number, 724-246-6257. Website, email address, fwdrx.com.
That's it.
When the weather turns bad, you can now do two things. First, tune to Beaver County Radio for the latest cancellation announcements, and second, go to beavercountyradio.com and access our all-new closings and delays widget that is active anytime that there are weather-related events. If snow's got you covered, so do we at Beaver County Radio. Beaver County Radio social media and beavercountyradio.com. Snow Watch is presented by Monroe Auto Body, the Lisa Latham team at eXp Realty, the cornerstone of Beaver County, and Beaver County Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
There's exciting news. A new pharmacy in New Brighton just opened, Forward RX. It's an independent community pharmacy that fills prescriptions at transparent cost-plus pricing on many generic medications. No insurance or discount coupons needed. Brandon Antinopoulos will discuss your needs and how Forward RX can help you save money. The pharmacy experience you deserve is more affordable than you think. Become a Forward member today. Stop in 809 3rd Avenue, New Brighton, or check their prices at fwdrx.com. First 2 hours went absolutely scalding by. Thank you to Brandon Antinopoulos. Forward RX. It's so weird. Being upfront and honest, and that's a novel concept. I learned so much when he's here, but you can get a hold of him at Forward RX. It's in New Brighton. The phone number 724-246-6257. And the first hour, equally brilliant. It was the cast of the Dutch Ridge Elementary SpongeBob the Musical. I've got tickets to give away. Gave away some. I got more of that coming up in the next hour. That was 2 good hours. I'm going to butcher the third.
You're listening to 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls.